What's happening, guys? Yeah, crazy Marfoogle show today. I gotta like wind down after the Foogle. It can be so intense. I mean, there's just so many emotions flying everywhere. Just a lot of positivity on the internet, which it's still just kind of weirding me out because that's literally not how that goes anywhere else on the internet. So I'm grateful for that. Grateful to see some familiar faces here. What's happening, Rip Curl? Yeah, I really liked your call today. Um, yeah, but there's always more. There's always more stuff that we didn't get into that Marf didn't cover that I'm not going to cover. It's an endless stream, but I think what we're trying to do at least a little bit is categorize our thoughts so we can sort of not put things in boxes, but just be aware of things as they happen, and so you can avoid the freak out, right? The emotional turmoil that is what they want you to get into basically at every turn. And I think if you build up a little bit of tolerance, you will find that you can recognize stuff before it's coming, basically. And I think that's why we're having this whole discussion, why we get together and talk on the internet, because yeah, we're trying to not get blindsided at every turn, and that's really is a big part of the tactic. It's really a big part of what keeps us down, because we're constantly guessing. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going on with these algorithms. We don't know what puts a little letterbox at the bottom talking about a specific subject, depending on what you say, the images you show. And once you got it figured out, they're probably just going to change it, right? As soon as they know that people got one algorithm figured out, they're going to switch it on you. So, yeah, check out these tadpoles. There are some natural parts to Los Angeles. Contrary to popular belief, there's a lot of different sort of climates that happen in this city, and it really has been since my childhood that I've seen tadpoles. Normally, this creek slash river is dried up by this point in the year, and it usually doesn't run at all until the fall. And that's how that's been for most of my adult life. But I do have these vague memories of childhood, catching these tadpoles, playing with the frogs, and generally, enjoying nature and that kind of thing. So it's interesting to be seeing it this year when we're going to have all these insane floods. The dam's about to break, among many other things. But I thought I'd sort of point that out. That's sort of our local little stream there, and it is definitely flowing, has been flowing all winter, and is full of tadpoles now, which is right. It's always bittersweet because it's gonna be hot later, and they're all gonna get melted. Here's a pretty hectic video. I feel like this is moving faster than I shot it. But it by the end of the day, it was very clear. It had sort of cleared out a lot of that nonsense that was swirling the day before. I guess had sort of been moved through, and see if I can hold on this cloud. I think I held on this cloud for a second because it is interesting to me always. When the more you look at things like this, it's moving very swiftly. What's up with this right angle here? It's very right. And these were very low. I could tell these were, maybe a couple thousand feet, not way up in the stratosphere, and they were really sort of cooking. That's why, I kept the camera on this particular frame for a second, because they really were. They were moving. But always with these right angles in the clouds, it just kind of weirds me out. And you try to watch it, it does change mildly, but right angles should not be sustainable in this sort of atmosphere. And the more you look at them, the more you see these little sort of angles that honestly they just shouldn't really be there, or maybe they should. Maybe I'm just tripping out. And there just is a lot of talk about the construction, the work that's going on all around the country. That's a lot of Hoogle people calling in and letting you know about what's going on with infrastructure work, late night shipments, and all that kind of stuff. And here's my little contribution here. This is what they're doing all over the city, is blocking off ramps one by one. Maybe they're just doing some cleaning. I'm sure there's some standard stuff mixed in. They've always needed road work. They've always needed to fix stuff up like that. But at the same time, it's just rapidly and exponentially increased. It's just literally every day you see somebody messing with an off ramp at this point in time in Los Angeles. And just want to put that out there. Something that I noticed. Let me know what you think. Where am I at? I'd rather not say exactly. I drive a lot all around the city, though. This particular off ramp is around Universal City. Next, near the In-N-Out. It's this is sort of the heart of the city, basically, where everybody has to sort of pass through to either get downtown or get to someplace else. But it is a very sprawling place, right? 12 million people on average. Right, so that's a lot of off ramps that they got to mess with, that they got to fix and clear up there. So yeah, that's my general weather thing. I'm not going to harp on it too long today, because we could, we don't want to say the wrong word. But I saw a lot of real clouds today. Let's just leave it at that. A lot of real shaped clouds. They seemed real, at least. Real with right angles. All right, so just a little. This was tripping me out, right? Just a little preparation for the 100 portion of the episode. Hopefully, everybody's up on their sacred geometry, right? That this whole concept of drawing circles and overlapping them somehow unlocks everything from consciousness all the way down to complex mathematics. That just by drawing a couple offset circles and then positioning them just in the right spot, it's basically the answers to everything. And the more you really look into it, you start to understand that a little bit more. It is, I feel like I'm a long ways off myself. There's a lot more to dig into, but how important sacred geometry is, I think, to a lot of the esoteric groups and, powers that be types, and anything that they're interested, I have suddenly become very interested in, because, well, there's always something there, There's always something there. So I hope this is familiar to you, this symbol, that the tree of life, these overlapping circles create this grid pattern that then, I can't give you the basics of sacred geometry in 2 minutes, but definitely worth looking into. There's tons of great documentaries all over the internet about this kind of thing and how it all lines up. But, right, that's their basic thesis. All consciousness is based on sacred geometry. And, hey, why not, Especially if this really is some sort of matrix simulation thing, that would make a lot of sense to have it be based around something so perfect. But it's for a little later. I was looking at those tadpoles, and stay with me. Lizard people, right? The evil monsters that are running this world and controlling all the things. I was looking at a bug, in that same creek, and it was sort of floating on top of the creek and floating down it, and I was like, how do bugs breathe? I was wondering, they don't have lungs. There's no room for that. Their bugs are tiny, and I guess I didn't fully comprehend this, and now I know, and I'm sharing it with you, that insects are covered with these little holes and tubes, mostly on their abdomen, where they let in air and let it back out again. But the part that sort of stuck with me, right, if you'll go with me for a minute, that there really are sort of insectoid creatures that live among us, possibly, maybe not, possibly though, that bugs have a problem with breathing too much oxygen. It's generally too much oxygen in the atmosphere, and a lot of bugs, if you look into this, they'll hold their breath for days or even for hours or even days, and that's kind of nuts just in general. But that basically they need a lot less oxygen than our species does, and how interesting that yeah, they prefer to have more carbon dioxide. And I just think it's really interesting that with this whole climate change shift, that we are indeed getting a lot more carbon dioxide parts per million in the air. Whoever's in charge of that, is it your fault? Actually, that's right. I think we decided that it was your fault. Yours specifically. If you're listening to this, global warming is your fault. Nothing personal. I don't mean that in a mean way. It's just a fact according to the things that I read here. So, but right, if all the scary stuff that was happening was not even scary quite enough, I've been seeing quite a lot of articles talking about the economy and in general, like this industrial output falling down on its knees. That was Nissan yesterday with losing more than a quarter of their earnings. Yo, what's up, Snafu? You the man? Yeah, Marfugal fam in the house. You guys are awesome. And he's so inspiring, right? I'm trying to be my own man, but I'm not gonna lie. Marv definitely inspired me to really get this going and keep it going. So I'm glad to see you guys, the late night crew. Yeah, economy collapsing. That's just I just want to keep highlighting that. If you joined me last night, we were looking at that Stolen Valor episode on CBS, and a lot of it had to do with this, basically posting extremist or what they're calling toxic, quote unquote, toxic content, which is really just a very, very vague. What's up, Truth Serum? A very vague term for stuff that they don't want you to look at, and that could be it's such a broad sweeping range of ideas. You know what I mean? It could be anything. That could be hate groups. That could be weird stuff like this, right? Is this toxic content? Who decides what toxic content is? It is toxic content when you get a trail marker at the info box at the bottom of your video because, we maybe all screwed at that point. And here's a block here. I don't know if this is what's happening. This guy is obviously a psyop. I hope we're on the same page there. But he's not going along with this. But the rest of the world, because of what happened in Christchurch, they are basically trying to lock all this stuff down online and really change your mind about what is okay and what is allowed to be online and what is allowed to be shown in your face. What can you handle in your brain? Because if it's toxic, we better shut that down. You better not look at it because it's toxic. It's going to poison you. And he's pulling back now, right? But I'm pretty sure this is all just posturing for what's coming in the future. So... sorry, guys. Good to see everybody. I did an article like this yesterday, and I thought I'd pull another one up because they really are just kind of a dime a dozen. Big breakthrough in computing is gonna fix everything, and just in time for the 5G revolution, because it's not just about the speed, it's about the data throughput. It's about how much parallel processing can we see done in a second, and all of our classical devices are just not going to be able to keep up with the bandwidth that's being made available in 5G. So I'm pretty sure all of this stuff has already been worked out, developed. They must be using devices using this tech, and they have been for quite some time. But I'm sure after 5G really gets settled in, that we're going to see a big rollout of the next post-classical computer phase, right? And you think you're spaced out now, you think you're distracted now. Wait until quantum computing comes. Wait until it's directly into your brainstem. Now will feel like just very mild, in the grandest sense of that word. I think we haven't even seen. We can't even picture how much our brains are going to get jammed full of info. And I have to. I know there's a cataclysm. I know there's some disaster coming, but I have to believe that there's something after that. That there's got to be a continuation, because otherwise, I don't think they would be putting so much effort into the messaging these days. Because there really is. It's so consistent and powerful. There has to be something after the cataclysm. And I think the cataclysm is just going to be sort of a trigger and a way to get us all in a very weak position, so we can get rallied up for the next phase, which, yeah, the TV show is going to tie into that too, like it always does. Yeah, I just, not allowed to say these words, right? Very sad about what happened. And again, really, I was one of those skateboard 90s kids that grew up, thinking all of this churchy stuff was super lame, because that's basically how I got indoctrinated, and that's what is in the mainstream. And there's the whole thing with the kids and the bad stuff they do and the history and right, there's just, like, I guess, a lot of evidence and reasons for it's an easy sell, basically, to get kids off of the religion. But now that I have my eyes open a little wider, it is sort of insane to see the stuff that's going on with Christianity right out in the open, right? So this just seems, and this is right on the front here of The Guardian, that is a possible idea, that could really go through. They're going to rebuild this thing, and that they're thinking about putting a public pool on the top. Like, it's obviously photoshopped, and like, that would be such a huge problem with leaking and all this other sort of problem. This is probably just to generate some buzz, and they're going to pick something else, I'm guessing, but it may indeed be something like this in the end, something very non-religious, very public space. So this incredibly, like, sacred long term, right? Yeah, definitely some of the most amazing architecture ever. I remember looking at this in art history and being like, this is it. This is the one. I looked at a lot of churches, and there's really nothing like this style with the flying buttresses. It's just spectacular. And just the thought of having it turned into some sort of rec room for the general populace is, it's just, I'm not Christian, so I'm not, I guess, technically offended, but I am offended. That's not what you do with this building. That's not how you treat this building. I want to show you this article, but I can't afford it. I don't have any more New York Times credits here. I really wish the overlords would, send me a little discount code or something so I could bring you this important news, but I'm just too poor, so I'm sorry. We're going to head on over to this other article. More words we can't say or talk about, but I still think this is an interesting story to follow. Right? Measles. Measles bad. Measles kill you. Measles terrible. If you have it, possibly don't talk to anybody,
The toxin's gone, Drew. We all made it. Thanks to you.
I died, didn't I?
Your heart did stop. People here revived you.
I saw something. I felt something.
All right, so that jumped in there. I sort of leave the TV on to hit at 20 minutes, so if I'm spacing out on the news, it'll jolt me back into reality. Just want to keep you guys, aware of what's going on. We're now getting to the point of rallies and unvaccinated people meeting en masse on the street, and how dangerous that is going to be, right? Because it's just a hotbed of disease. Then you could have these protesters just traveling around in large groups spreading disease. That's real bad, right? We're going to need to shut that down. Maybe control freedom to assembly a little bit more, because it's not okay, right? It's not okay. And just every day, this is really, if it's giving me those 2003 sort of ramp up feelings. This is really happening, guys. Like, I can sort of, like I said, I'm getting it through the ether. This is, all the signs are sort of lining up, and right, it is all of a show. I believe it is all just mega scripted, much more than we can ever possibly imagine. But at the same time, the script is signaling all of the things towards this happening. So it looks like we're headed back, guys, and we're finally got to figure out which path to Persia. If we've been wondering for a really long time, which path? How do we get there? Well, this seems to be the way. We're almost there. So let's talk Planet X for a second, just as a preview, right? I just want you to see this Space.com article so you guys all know Nibiru, non-existent. That's how you can remember it. It starts with an N, and this also starts with an N. Nibiru, non-existent. So anytime anybody talks to you about Nibiru, non-existent. Nibiru, non-existent. It's easy to remember, right? Variety of rumors. I just like to highlight these emotional words that they always pack into these kind of things. But despite the buzz, no scientific evidence. And of course, right, we didn't die in 2012, unless, according to some people, maybe we did. It doesn't exist, though, right? You may be confusing it with Planet 9, which I think NASA and space people prefer to call Planet X Planet 9. I think it's because Pluto got demoted. Still a little confused on that. But they call it Planet 9, and they say that Nibiru and Planet 9 have nothing to do with each other, that those are completely separate entities. Yeah, and they're going to pin it all on Sitchin. Sitchin? People say different things. They're going to pin it all on Zachary Sitchin, basically. He just made this whole thing up. The Anunnaki, it's all just this guy's story. He made it up. Not like there were any sort of ancient tablets that he pulled this info from. He made it all up, like, from scratch. Which, props to him, because it's a really complicated story. Right, and it's his own unique translation, so that's how you know, oh, he just misread it, right? He made this stuff up. Go check out the Enuma Elish yourself, okay? But let's get into this show. And we'll see if my clips are short enough to keep me from getting content ID'd. I've been getting content ID'd every day. Depending on the studio, they will either block the clip, the whole show entirely, or they will make it so I can't monetize. But I have no subscribers, so, except for you guys. I love you guys. So I'm not in the monetizing phase. But if I was, I wouldn't be able to, and they would be stealing my revenue, which is totally good for them. Good business choice there. But right, just for quick refresher, they're just a bunch of kids and they're on a foreign planet now, and they're trying to figure out what's going on there. And this planet just seems to have a lot of similarities with us, and specifically us in this Nibiru different time period.
The toxin's gone, Drew. We all made it. Thanks to you.
I died, didn't I?
Your heart did stop. People here revived you.
I saw something. I felt something. I'm pretty sure I'm going to hell.
Are you okay? He always is.
All right, that's our first little clip there. This is unrelated to the whole Nibiru subject, but I still think it's really interesting how they're bringing up death and reincarnation experience of a different life while they're on this new planet. And this really, in all the 6 seasons, hasn't been a huge subject of the show, the afterlife and any sort of entities that you may or may not run into in said afterlife. But it is now, and I'm really interested to see where this goes. A lot of talk about past lives and death and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just interested to see where they take that. And I feel like there was something more to say about that clip, but it's still worth pulling. You know how much I love clouds, if you've been watching this channel, and I love looking at clouds on television, because that's how you know how regular clouds, real clouds, happy clouds are supposed to look, right? They are not on Earth. So it's not Earth or a soundstage. It is a foreign planet that they flew to, and they seem to have the most just perfect, beautiful, fluffy white little friends here as they live in their paradise land. And that's just, it's very nice for them, I think, to have such nice, simple clouds. I think, they're not really too worried about stratospheric aerosol injections, although, and I don't have the clips for this, there is a whole side plot where there is extreme radiation coming in, and they actually have a man-made radiation shield that keeps them from melting on this planet, because this is not traditionally, I guess, a human hospitable planet. So they do have a grid or a network set up to protect the people from the harmful rays from space. Does any of that sound familiar? Sounds familiar to me. The more you look at it carefully, I think you start to peel it back really quick. You see a plot line and you're like, oh, well, here's a 5G parallel, and it's pretty obvious, and okay, it's coming to save everybody, and then now they're all happy about it, and I wonder how that seed is going to get planted in your mind and then used later. Probably very efficiently, I would think. All right, let's see. Let's check out this other clip. Looks like we're so good so far. So good so far. Are these? These are linked. Motherfucker. What's in this clip? Oh, this is a pre-clip before I get to the right, because I don't actually get into the full subject until the 33 mark. So this is all these other shows that I watch. I am continuing to watch them. I'm just not showing you, images every single day. But if I do find something interesting,
I didn't think people would come. I thought they came. It turned out I didn't think people would come. I thought they came.
More people here tonight ever come to see me.
It's awesome. We needed this.
so that's another short clip from The Society, that show I showed. It's on Netflix, and this is a couple episodes in, and it's another very interesting thing to watch, I think. Seeing media portrayed in media when they talk about entertainment in entertainment, because right, they're trying to shape your ideas about everything, and they got to do it one by one, and entertainment's definitely on that list. And I pulled this clip because The Walking Dead, although not very popular anymore the way it used to be, had literally exactly the same story arc in its previous season, where everything was falling apart, people are getting mad at each other, it seems like the world's going to end, and then they go and they find a projector bulb, and they are able to show movies, and they have all these warring factions, and they're able to pull them all together and put on a movie, and everybody just chills the fuck out and relaxes and watches the movie, and they forget about all their problems, because that's how the world works, right? That's when you turn on the movie, that's when you relax and forget about your troubles. It's not when you get indoctrinated. It's not when they shove concepts and ideas down your throat. It's when you relax and come together with friends. So just want to make sure that's clear. But in my search for looking for copies, duplicates, echoes, right, here is a rock solid echo. I would say that this was the plot line in The Walking Dead 5 seconds ago, and now here it is in The Society, which is basically wall to wall the same types and same types of concepts and the same execution, right, where people are on the edge. We're screwed. What are we gonna do? It's got to be socialism. That's the only way, especially in a smaller group. Like, we got to lock people up. We got to torture people, and then share all the food. That seems to be the only answer, right? I think we're, I think we're good with that. So, and I guess I'll just keep trying to say it in as many ways as possible, right? What if depending on the situation, if it's a tsunami, if it's a grid down, if aliens invade, if China invades, if an EMP attack, if it's this pole shift. Maybe it's the EMP changeover event. You know, there's just so many theories out there about what's going to happen, but all of them point to rough times. Rough times, most likely without infrastructure, without power, without messaging. At first, at least. Can you picture the first movie they're going to show after that disaster, though? They're going to put out some signs. They're gonna say, come down to the convention center, come to the stadium. There's got to be a movie on Friday. And you're sitting at home all alone, no power. Word starts to spread, hey, they're showing movies on Fridays in the stadium. We should go. I know it's a long walk, you know, it's dangerous, but man, I'm going crazy here. I just gotta look at I gotta distract myself, you know? And then once you're there, what happens then? Probably see a cool movie. I don't know, what do you think they'd show? Maybe, Die Hard? Here they're showing, I guess, some like Zorro variant. And right, how do they think that's going to affect their public? And I don't know if you heard the clip initially, but she's talking with the supposed religious leader, the church lady here, and church lady says, "Oh my God, I can't believe how many people are here watching this movie. Could never ever get this many people into church." Because people don't like words, they like images. I mean, I love images too. I'm going to be the first person to admit it. And I think you all do too, because you're here watching YouTube. We've been trying to love images. Let's keep loving them. Maybe. But maybe we could love them a little more responsibly, you know what I mean? Be sort of a grown-up about it. Don't just sort of like they're wanting you to revert into your childlike state and just go put your critical thinking to sleep, because that's exactly the time that you get convinced of stuff that maybe you didn't even agree with, but it was just put to you in such a compelling way at such a vulnerable time that you just ate it. You ate the whole thing whole. And I know this is how it works, because it's happened to me over and over again, until I realized, oh man, they just slipped that in my mind. Now I want to do drugs. Now I want to steal a car. It's because of the TV show. I can feel it. Let's get in this clip though, and let's see if I can unmute it. So that's why I pulled up the sacred geometry stuff at the beginning, because they are in this perfect sort of happy civilization that they found on this other planet, and it's absolutely drenched in this, right? There's the tree of life right there. This sort of sacred geometry is all over the place, and it makes me think about, you know, what if when Nibiru that doesn't exist circles back around, the things change? Are certain physical properties that happen on this earth going to be radically different? Will things like the sacred geometry stuff have a lot like more active, direct impact on the real world? Because that's sort of what this show is talking about, right? I guess they're technically like a moon, but it's the same concept of what we're talking about here, that there's a double sun, that it's a binary system, that there's a smaller sort of sun out there, and when that comes by every once in a while, everybody just absolutely loses their mind. And that sounds just very familiar to the whole Nibiru, Zagreus Sitchin concept, that there are these Anunnaki, they're living on this other planet, and that every time that planet swings around, it really is only, I don't know, every 12,000 years, whatever that period is. But whenever that happens, everybody sort of loses their shit. And also, things get weird, you know? Maybe plasma starts like flying out of the sky. Maybe the planets get linked by sort of plasma links. I think something really, really sort of crazy looking happens in the sky, and that really just freaks everybody out. And even though the Space.com article said it's fake, why is it in this TV show? Like the same exact note for note concepts. And the more we look at this clip, you hopefully hear at the beginning of the clip, they're talking through a megaphone, and it really reminds me of a bunch of other shows that, have some hardcore predictive programming in it where everything's nice. They meet and have like mandatory / fun Tai Chi meetings every day. Everything's sort of perfect. There are some guards. They got sticks, but for the most part, everybody's just living in a magical happy land. I mean, you can tell just from these couple frames how beautiful their town is and how happy they are. Some bad guys come out of the woodwork because that would be too boring for a TV show. But I just want to plant home that concept of, right, this foreign land, a rotating sun, a binary sun system that will change the behavior of people based on its proximity. And sounds like a bunch of Anunnaki stuff to me. And again, I mean, I don't know when any of this is coming. It could be 100 years until this swings around, or maybe it's already swung around and they're hiding it all with the sun simulator. Those are sort of my two options. That it could be full on here now. That's why we're feeling all this weird UVC, seeing all this weird stuff in the sky, because it's already happening right now. It's like this red, terrifying sky, like the same the sun that you see here. Well, and there's sort of a Saturn, Jupiter, right? Everything is in this show, and that's why I keep coming back to it. And I'm going to keep showing clips. I'm going to do a little more research, but I'm telling you guys, like, you don't have to watch this stuff start to finish, but the more you watch, the more you will understand basically what they want us to think, but also the breadcrumbs and the things that they purposefully or unpurposefully hide to confuse us about reality. But at the same time, while they're trying to confuse us, you could, gangster style, figure that shit out and realize what they're showing us. And a lot of this stuff is also nods to other, friends of the family, people that are in the know. So that's about all I got. Just notice the architecture. This whole thing reminds me of the mud flood of previous sort of more advanced cultures that were on a planet. And that's how this whole season starts. They land on this place. They don't see anybody. They find a beautifully constructed town full of sacred geometry that they could never build in 1,000 years. And yet these people were able to. And I don't know, we'll see. See if they get welcomed into their spot. Yeah. That's my pitch there. I'm still working on this outro thing. I want to get like some, I gotta get like a button I can press so I can just like outro. But it's been good talking to you guys. It's great to see some active chat. And, right, that's sort of I think that's sort of my idea, at least, to do my part, that there should be Marf style live shows just going around the clock so people can continue to have good conversations, and listen to somebody that's speaking a similar mind, but almost, it's like Marf says, almost the more important part is what's going on in the chat, how people are connecting and bouncing ideas off each other and trying to figure this out together, because that's what we're trying to do. Don't want to end up in the street, But maybe we're all headed that way. Yeah. Hey, great to see you, Susan. I'm going to head out. I'm going to play some keyboards for you guys, though, on this outro, and you can check out these images, and we will see you tomorrow. Show is always at midnight if there's no Marf. If there is Marf, I usually wait until after the showtro. So, yeah, take it easy, guys.